Hello, Liberty lovers. My name is Michael Harris, the Deputy Leader of the Libertarian Party of Canada. And today I am joined with the youngest mayoral candidate in Calgary's history, Jonas Smith. Welcome to the live stream today.
Howdy. Hi, Michael. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. It's an amazing Sunday. Besides all the smoke that I see outside my window, it's a crisp 30 degrees and I'm ready to get some sun. Um, who are you? What are you? What have you accomplished recently here in Calgary?
Well, Michael, I'm the youngest mayoral candidate ever in Calgary's history. I was ran at 18 years old, I think 160 some days. It was just, I believe it is officially the record for youngest candidate.
Yeah.
I'm a youth advocate for the progressive conservative youth, just conservative youth, if you want to call it that. I'm also, I guess, an honorary member of your party right now, of the Libertarian Party of Canada. And right now, I'm just a big youth advocate. I accomplished a lot. I've harped on Farkas. Farkas, as much as he doesn't want to admit it, early on when it came to blanket rezoning, he did include some. I mean, he didn't say it was some of mine, but I'd like to think that it was some of my points on blanket rezoning in his campaign. I think I scared him a bit. Uh, but yeah, right now I'm a conservative youth advocate and started Calgary First, my organization, to advocate for youth on a municipal level. Hopefully to change a lot of these laws with Farkas, especially regarding stampede and noise restrictions for next year. That's going to be a big thing that we don't let go of, and we can't let go of that, because if we let go of it, then Farkas is going to get away with it, and we can't let him do that.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Before we get into the big discussion of this evening, I wanted to ask you about what you thought about a couple of things that have happened recently here in Calgary.
Yeah.
So, as you know, our esteemed mayor in Calgary here has had a lot of anti-free market policies recently, with changing venue dates, changing the availability of loud music, and so much so that Country Thunder got shut down. Cowboys now shutting down their music stage. It's some big changes happening here to Calgary that's going to affect the Stampede for generations to come. Well, what do you have to say about all that?
Well, I have to say Farkas is the biggest hypocrite ever, and we'll get into this later because it ties back into the referendum. But with Farkas, quite often says that the referendum is causing uncertainty in our economy, and it's bad for the economy because it creates uncertainty. But Farkas so far has been the most uncertain mayor ever. He hasn't gotten anything accomplished, and what he does accomplish hurts Calgarians. I mean, these bylaws, biggest thing, again, like you said, Country Thunder, which was, as much as he wants to say, oh, it's the rain, oh, it's this, it's that, the rain that weekend wasn't that bad. I think it was only actually Sunday that it rained,
Yeah.
or it might have been Saturday that it rained. Sunday was a bit of a drizzle. One of them was a bad day, so I understand that. And Country Thunder relies on per day ticket sales, but they would
And a
have broken
true
even.
Western concert's going to have a little bit of rain. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think I've ever gone to a concert that doesn't have a little bit of a weather warning. That
It's
amplifies the
funny.
experience, as far as I'm aware.
It's funny you mentioned that, because their headliner, Country Thunder's headliner, the Red Clay Strays, the day before it was canceled, posted a whole reel on "We Perform in the Rain Anyways." And they did their whole performance in the rain. Everybody showed up for it. So clearly the weather's not a factor. He just doesn't want to take responsibility for his actions.
Absolutely. We're not Post Malone. We don't cancel if there's just,
We don't
like 10
cancel.
millimeters of rain coming down. But it's sad because, truly, I think this is going to harm the reputation of Stampede for generations to come. I mean, Cowboys, Country Thunder, these are very big hitter names in the community. They draw in millions, if not billions of dollars every decade. And we're going to lose out on that revenue, not only as a city, but also as a province as well, too. And if people want to party, this is the time to party. It's like it's our Mardi Gras here in Alberta.
Yeah, and I mean, Farkas's excuse was, oh, but the noise and whatnot, and yet we never have that many complaints in reality. And when you live downtown, you should expect the Calgary Stampede to go on for 10 days. It's 10 days, right? It's
Yeah.
not the rest of your life. It's just 10 days a year.
If you're buying a house in an entertainment district, you got to expect it.
You do.
I'm here in University. I live near the train line, and we get the train coming in every single day, and it's loud, but we expect
You
it because
expect it.
I
Yeah.
knew where I bought my house. Like, I know where I'm living right now while I'm here for university. So
Yeah. And the people living around Cowboys can't say that they didn't know because they did know, because Badlands is less than a kilometer away, or National Saloon, one of the two, is less than a kilometer away. So what do you mean you didn't know? You're living next to one already.
This reminds me of the municipal politics back in my town of Drumheller, where our mayor decided we're not gaining enough money in our community. We're going to raise the property taxes of our town. Subsequently, the property taxes being increased also means that the one area that's actually bringing in tourism, which is the downtown area, which is being charged the most, is harming our sector, harming our entertainment sector. So much so that our mascot, Tina the dinosaur, is now being taken down because the shop owners who own the giant T-Rex can no longer afford the property taxes anymore. And I think this is just becoming an issue here with municipal politics, that we're seeing these mayors that, they have a plan, or they think they have a plan going into running for office. They implement policies that's outside of the scope of small business owners, and they're actually implementing these policies that are harming everyday Albertans when they just want to be able to work and run their business, when really they're being silenced, they're being muzzled from being able to provide a service to the community, whether it be as simple as having a giant dinosaur, or being able to listen to live music.
Yeah, Michael, you don't need to convince me on dinosaurs.
I'm going back to Drumheller in a week. I gotta see her one last time before they take her down, and I'm sad about it.
Gotta make it.
But before we get on to the referendum questions, I wanted to ask you, Jonah, what have you personally seen here as you have been working here in municipal politics, and what do you hope to change in the coming years leading to the 2029 mayoral election? And assuming you're going to run again for mayor or for a ward councillor.
Or for councillor, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I've seen so far is, I want to say it's more of the same of the last city council, but the problem is that it's not. The problem is that it's not doing anything. And when I watched the election, actually, and I was staying up till like midnight watching it, and then we didn't get a result on the mayor till I think the next day. But I remember looking at it, I was cautiously optimistic at first of the idea that, okay, this council is somewhat split, it seems, ideologically, and they could get along, they can make compromise. It seems like Farkas is going to be the deciding vote.
Yeah.
And that is sort of still true, but the problem is that it's sort of like a 9 to 6 vote now on pretty much everything positive for the city to defeat it, right? Farkas is once again just saying no to everything that will positively impact the city, right? He has no drive to change things, and I think that's an issue. I mean,
he's a bit of an agitator. Me and you, we went to the Land Johnson event earlier, and we were hearing that Farkas is apparently slinging around assault claims on current councillors. What's going on with that?
So according to Landon Johnston, he said, "Good job." Kind of give him just a little tap on the shoulder. A friendly tap. Just good job, man. And Farkas reported him. And I don't know if he reported him to the police or if there's like an ethics council for city council or something, right? I don't know how that works, how this report works, but he filed an assault charge against Landon Johnston for that. Now there's cameras in city council. So again, it seems like Farkas, he puts on this facade of, I'm the nice guy, I've got a nice smile. But the second you challenge him, the second you sort of disagree with him, or just give an opposing point to him, he becomes very, I want to say malicious, because I do believe he is acting with malicious intent now, especially with Landon Johnston. I mean, something that just as small as that, it looks like he looks for every single opportunity to take down people he doesn't like. And I was talking about this with Sonia Sharp too. He still doesn't like Sonia Sharp.
Of course, because he doesn't like conservatives.
Yeah, she lives rent free in his head. And again, Farkas gave off the I'm fiscally conservative during the election, which he lied about. And quite frankly, I'm upset because I want my vote back, because I believe that I would vote for Sonia Sharp, and I believe she deserves to be mayor right now. Not Farkas.
Do you think she would be the pro-liberty candidate going into 2029 if she runs again?
Well, pro-liberty, I mean, yeah. I mean, quite frankly, that's what you can call her, because Farkas has come after private property rights. Like, he's giving you a water schedule, right? He's taken away from Cowboys Music Festival, like we talked about, right?
Yeah.
He's coming
that
after
water schedule screwing me up, because I'm trying to grow a garden in my backyard right now, and hot weather, can't have a limit on how much, like, I'm willing to pay more for my water, but the fact is now it's becoming like, what was it? You have to pay a $500 fine if you go over
Yeah.
the liter amount. Like,
It's just your
that's
hose water too, right?
yeah. So like
So
I can have
that
a shower, but I can't use
you
my
can
hose to
just
water
fill
my
up
garden
your thing
anymore.
inside,
Yeah.
right? Like what does it really do to actually impact water usage? Nothing. Because you're gonna
Yeah.
use that water regardless. You're just gonna fill it up inside now and take it outside. So Farkas knows that. It's just a reach into your rights. And he knows he can get away with it because he's got 8 other city councilors who seem to be not thinking with their noggin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could go on this forever, but I'll say one more thing on the water. And I don't know if this is necessarily in the district of Calgary, so maybe this is more municipal outside of Calgary. But a lot of people are worried about the water restrictions might stay permanent because of the new AI data centers that are being built in both southern and central Alberta. Do you think that this could affect our water restrictions here in Calgary and actually make it worse? Considering I believe they said that they consume about 400 liters of water every single hour, if I believe
Yep.
so.
Yep.
Is that accurate? Is that what we're going to see in the future here? Is this going to affect Calgary? What's your thoughts on all that?
I think it's dependent on the Bow River, right? Because that's like our main source of water, and then mountain runoff and whatnot. I don't know if there's any data centers that are being built with that water, like, and they're using that river as their source.
Hmm.
Again, it mainly depends on where these towns get their water from. We mainly get ours from the Bow River. I mean, I think we also have like rain reservoirs too. But it very much could, especially when you have unchecked data centers, right?
No.
Because they provide nothing, and where they have to headquarters somewhere. They're not going to headquarter in Drumheller. They're going
No.
to headquarter here in Calgary, and obviously that becomes an influential factor.
Well, there is one thing. This is actually something that's consequential to the municipal sector of my riding, is that in Camrose, they're talking about taking and diverting uh, well water away from the community surrounding Camrose. So they're going to start drilling into the aquifers that are underground, and they will be pumping water from the surrounding area of Camrose, which already some areas have boil water advisories already, and using that towards fueling the Edmonton data center.
Yep.
So that could be a concern. Maybe not Drumheller. I know Drumheller mostly gets it from Battle River itself and
Yeah.
from like underwater aquifers independently. But I think we've seen very recently a control or kind of a race for water with governments and corporations, where it seems to be that the control of water is becoming an important resource, especially for municipal politics. If you're a city or a town or a hamlet or a village that sits on an aquifer or a riverbed or a lake, it seems to be that that's going to be the hot ticket resource, even more so than oil in the coming decades here, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, and Canada's gonna have a lot of it. Wait, what do we have? 2% of the world's freshwater supply, something
Maybe
like
like
that.
13% of the world's lakes as well too.
13%.
We have quite a lot of
We
water
have
here.
we have a lot of water, which arguably could make us rich, or
Yeah.
arguably, but is it for a good cause? I don't believe so. I don't think for data centers is a good cause, and obviously with the states and selling to them, obviously the Americans seem to be a lot more on that fight against data centers than we are for some reason. I mean, I see it a lot more in the fights from Fishbach in Florida. He's against data centers, and he's usually against Flock.
Of course. We don't want our privacy being taken advantage of. And I think that is a concern that a lot of people have coming into the new decades here, where privacy is becoming like a secondary thought in the favor of security, it seems almost. And I think another concern with the implementation of data centers, with both the consumption of electricity and the consumption of water to our towns and cities, is that for in the reality sake, a lot of our towns and communities are already struggling to put up enough power to survive each winter. I mean, I think if you've lived in a big city, I've lived in Calgary over the winters while I'm studying here at U of C, where we have rolling blackouts where they turn certain districts off for like 5 minutes at a time, where they don't have enough power to be running these cities anymore, and they have these water caps. And I know many towns within my own riding where there was like Alliance and Stettler and Three Hills, where they had problems with water dispensary. And if depending on where you are in the town, if you're maybe the downtown area or if you're in the top rich people of the town, probably have your own water source. You probably don't get it from a bigger group. But there are still major towns and major communities that don't have access to any clean water, while the water in their communities are being like sanctioned off by the government, that they're telling them they can't touch this, they can't touch this. And so I think that it's just a general concern a lot of people have, that if the infrastructure is not built alongside the changes in consumption, then we're actively harming ourselves. I think there's something to explore. I think this is outside of municipal politics, but is being provided for municipal politics. Is Danielle Smith said that she's wanting to increase provincial funding towards the electricity, natural gas infrastructure here in Alberta, predominantly in Edmonton. Do you think that could be a positive impact on the economy, or do you think it's all just going to be eaten up by the data centers?
That's a tough question. Because I somewhat trust Danielle Smith's knowledge and the UCP's movements. But when it comes to this, energy is, an iffy issue because we use it to incentivize a lot of corporations to come here. And obviously, the more we invest into it, the more, I guess, nice we are to look at it from a company perspective. But I don't think in this era with data centers that you can just let these things go. I think you have to watch it cautiously. But I trust Danielle Smith, and I think investment in the energy sector and oil and gas is positive, right? I believe it is always a positive for that. But I don't trust her cabinet. I think that's what I'll say. Obviously, with folks like Brian Jean in there, I think that data centers are going to be a forefront of her cabinet, and I don't think she can control that part of it.
Speaking of referendums, there was a referendum petition that failed very recently, which was to stop the development of additional coal mines in Alberta. And very recently, I don't have the name on me, and I don't want to misquote the location, the tonnage that's going to be produced here, but I believe there's a big coal mine that just got approval in the last 2 days for one of our Banff slope mountains. And I know there's going to be a lot of controversy around that because now we're producing and exporting coal again, and possibly even using it for our electricity infrastructure. So I know that, speaking of referendums, this one is a one that didn't get passed, and it's not going to be on the October referendum. But do you think that there's enough opposition against it that it shouldn't go through? Is it like going to be a major disaster to our environment, or is it something that we need to diversify our economy and possibly bring more energy into this province? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I've got two thoughts on this. The first is that I don't agree with the petition. I think that coal mining is an economic benefit factor, right?
No.
When you look at how BC does it and how other places in the world do it, like they profit from it. It's a somewhat of a seasonal profit, I guess, right? That's not obviously making you money the entire year, but I think like 6 months out of the year, it's making you a profit. And it's just that nice little boost. It's how BC manages to get away with so much spending. That's how David Eby funds all his little excursions. But
why produce resources when you can just tax your citizens like peasants? Like that's just what socialists like to do.
Yeah. But like obviously I see the benefits. But I do think this should have been a referendum question, because Cord Blund, as much as I don't like the guy, actually I like his music. I just don't like the way he debates a lot of these things for water, not coal, and I think he's a bit of a LARPer.
As usual, I'm a very big localist. Even though I don't work in municipal politics, I'd say municipal politics is probably the most important sector to work in, and it's actually something that is very, like, to me, like, I know libertarians, we don't like government, but I think having a strong community is important for the safety and continuation of not only your culture, but your community at large, and obviously the local economy. Maybe I wouldn't say that it should have been a referendum for the whole province, because I don't think people in Lethbridge should have a say on what's happening to these local communities. But I do agree it should have been a referendum to the local people that are going to be affected. It's like where it's going to be affecting your water sources, whose jobs it's going to affect, whose communities is this going to either bring more energy into or sap more of the environmental prestige from it. Those are the people that should have been voting on it. But I will say though, having the government come in and say, well, now you don't have a voice on it, on the topic, you can't vote on it, you can't actually discuss it, it's going to go through regardless, is something that libertarians are also against. Because even though it is a big capitalist project, it is something that is going against the will of the local population. It's affecting their land whether they like it or not. It's going to affect their property whether they like it or not. If you use the river for, like, say, like cattle as an example, you graze cattle, you use the river line to give them fresh water, like say you don't have access to a well source. And if you weren't able to get your voice in to say, well, maybe we should build a dam, or maybe there should be like environmental protection for our river because we have an agricultural zoning in here. I think there are some concerns that, if these areas are left to their own devices with just complete government control, then they'll get left behind, or at least they'll have to suffer the consequences without their opinions getting into the mix. So is that kind of where you were aligning there, or do you have some disagreements with that?
My only disagreement is that I do think it should be a provincial referendum, because I mean, arguably the environment does affect all of us. That's the argument, at least, of course. But he got the signatures, and that's all I really care about, is that he got the signatures. He got them. I think it was he submitted them 2 weeks after the separatists.
Yeah, it was they submitted to, but according to Elections Alberta, if you believe that they are actually a valued institution and they're to be trusted, they actually didn't get enough signatures. Many of which of the signatures were actually considered. I don't know. He didn't say obviously they didn't say like forgeries or something like that, but they weren't verified that they were actual legitimate signatures. So they technically, by their standards, by Elections Alberta standards, they did not get enough signatures to put their question on the ballot. But I didn't like that Danielle Smith did say that even if it did pass, it wouldn't be considered a referendum. Yeah. She wouldn't add it anyways. So
I disagree with that. Yeah, I think it should be. If they didn't have the signatures, if they didn't verify them, which
I think since
we're both thinking the same thing.
Oh yeah. I think since we're officially 20 minutes into the live stream, I think we're going to start discussing what everybody is waiting for us to talk about. And we're going to discuss all 10 of the referendum questions that we're going to be voting on this October here in Alberta. So we have 10 questions, 9 yes or no questions, and 1 question, obviously, that is going to decide the future of our province. So we have question 1, the most controversial one. So we can go into some discussions on what the question is going to look like, how Danielle Smith is probably going to frame them, maybe how it will look like being implemented, or if it even will be able to be implemented at all. Because I think there's going to be some questions on here that really are kind of just show questions. Like, I think, spoiler alert, but number 7, abolishing the Senate, it's not going to happen. I don't know what they think you're voting on, but it's that they're not going to be able to do that with just voting on this ballot. But we're going to they're talking about how viable they are to actually succeed, how viable they are to actually get implemented within this decade. And if we have any suggestions to possibly rephrase the question or reform it, then we're also going to ask it. At the end, Jonah, if you're comfortable, I'd like us to discuss what we would actually vote on come October for each of these questions. Is that something you're comfortable with?
Yes.
Okay.
We can do that.
All right, then let's start with the big kahuna. Let's start with number 1, immigration control. Do you support the government of Alberta taking increased control over immigration to decrease immigration to more sustainable levels, prioritize economic migration, and give Albertans first priority for new employment opportunities? Now, my assumption when I read this is that Alberta is looking to be a lot like Quebec, where they're in control of their own immigration quotas, who can become a citizen of the province, who can receive like a work permit within the province, and who can actually be employed. Now, I would generally say that I would probably be in agreement with this, just because I would prefer more local autonomy when it comes to this. I'd say maybe the next step is to move it on to more municipal levels afterwards. But my problem is how they plan on implementing the last part of the question, which is that gives priority uh, to Albertans towards employment opportunities. How are they going to do that as a province? Are you going to force employers to check, uh, citizen status and say that you have to hire a full slate of Albertan workers before you can hire people outside of Alberta, or there has to be no Albertans that apply and you can only accept a non-Albertan when nobody applies? How are you going to implement that? That is my concern with question number one. But I would generally say provincial government should be in control of immigration, as well as the federal government, kind of working in tandem. But what's your thoughts on it, Jonah?
Well, Michael, I have to say I agree with you on that first part of, the question's worded poorly, quite frankly. I mean, especially at the end of how they would go about choosing these Albertans. And my question is, how do you decide who's an Albertan? What's the prerequisite to live here? Do you have to own property here? Do you just have to be residing in the province more than a few months? There's a lot of these questions here, to which point, at that point, does it even matter? Like, is it going to be like you just have to live here for 3 months? In which
Yeah,
case, what's the point of even saying you have to hire an Albertan first? I mean, any Canadian come live here for 3 months and then get hired. It doesn't really make sense to me to add that on there without going more in depth about what makes you an Albertan citizen in this context. And obviously, yeah, like hiring, right? Like, I believe employers
yeah,
need the choice to hire. If I want to hire 50 Americans and only Americans here, given they have the legal requirements to work here, I should be allowed to do that. I think
yeah.
I should be able to hire whoever I want, whenever I want, for whatever reason I want. And I
Currently,
think
right now,
people
I think the assumption is with them changing immigration control. I think they'll probably make it clear before they implement it, because obviously it's going to get changed. Because right now, if you're a Canadian citizen, you can become a citizen of Alberta within 3 months. If you live
yeah,
on the land for 3 months, you're an Alberta citizen, as long as you're a Canadian citizen. And if you're a permanent resident, or you're someone who's like an international student that is looking to become a Canadian citizen, as soon as you get your citizenship, assuming you have lived in Alberta previously, you become a citizen of Alberta. So that is the current standards of our immigration. But I think it's under the assumption that it's probably going to change if it does get approved. Um, I'm like I said, I'm probably going to vote yes on this one, just because I think, like I said, I want the province to control immigration. I think provinces should be in control of it, like Quebec. This is not just an Alberta opinion. I think like it should be that for every province as well too. But I would say there definitely needs to be some rephrasement, I'd say, with some of the questions, make it a little bit more clear for question one, what exactly we're giving the provincial government in terms of control with immigration. And obviously that question with employment opportunities, what do they mean by that? Does that mean that the government is going to be completely controlled, or can completely control employment and like applications for employment now? Are we going to see a ministry of employment? That's what I would like to know. Like, what kind of changes are going to be coming because of that last part of that question?
yeah. Now, I don't know if you want to talk about right now if we think this one will pass or fail, or if you want to hold off on that part.
I think this one will probably pass. I think there's going to be a lot of people that, even if they're not separatists, I think a majority of the right wing conservative base that's in Alberta is probably going to vote yes on this question. Um, I think obviously there's going to be a lot of like the New Democrats and a lot of liberals that are probably going to go on here to vote no as well too. But I think this question number one is probably the most likely question that's going to pass on this referendum, just because like, what province do we live in here, Jonah? We live in Alberta. I'm pretty sure this one's going to be voted yes.
Yeah. I sadly agree with that. I think I would vote no on this one simply for the fact that it's not worded properly enough for me. I don't like operating under the assumption of what the government will do. Um, but that's it for me in terms of that, right? Like I don't think it should pass because of just the poorly worded ending there. And obviously with immigration, I mean, sure, give it more control to the provinces so long as it doesn't undermine a federal economic immigration policy, right? Obviously, I don't want Quebec to accept
Yeah.
5 million new immigrants and hurt the total Canadian economy, but um, it probably will pass. I do see a lot of even moderates like me voting in favor of this one, obviously, because immigration is a big thing, and obviously giving us more control is something on their positive list.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of other groups, like, I know obviously some are going to take this as, like, I see it purely through an economic lens. Like, I don't care who you are as long as you're wanting to come to the province and be a pioneer. That's what I believe what immigration should be for, people who are willing to put their boots down and carve a life for themselves in this province and are willing to work, willing to build a family and help build your community up instead of taking from it. But I'm afraid that I feel like another reason why it's going to pass is that there's going to be obviously the negative side of it, that there's going to be like the groups like the Dominion Society that are going to use this and vote yes on it because they want to stop outside immigration from other countries as well too, because they want, I don't know, they want a white Alberta or something like that. I think there's been a lot of talk on that recently. I've seen the Dominion Society post on Twitter about that, where they said that even though they're not separatists, they're not voting anything a yes with anything else in this referendum, that they're just going to vote yes because of that. And I think that's going to possibly could help the no people, because if they frame question one as you're voting yes as a racism issue, I think they're more likely to get more people to vote no if that is the case.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean that's just the side effect of the Dominion Society is they'll always make everything to an extreme, and they'll hurt the actual conservative base. And
Yeah.
I mean, they just hurt Canada in general, but we don't need to debate about that.
Oh yeah. Well, we should probably move on to the second one because we only have 30 more minutes left in this stream. But oh my god, for provincial
Eligibility.
programs. Sorry, I don't know why I'm too much coffee, man. Never drink a full cup of coffee before a live stream. Do you support limiting provincial funded programs such as healthcare, education, social services to Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and people with Alberta approved immigration statuses? So I'm probably going to vote no on this one because it includes Canadian citizens. The limiting any programs, any specific citizens is, I'm sorry, that's just paramount to dictatorial control over institutions. I'm sorry. As much as people are probably going to want to vote yes on this one because, oh my goodness, we can limit free healthcare to international students and permanent residents. Notice, guys, read the fine print. It includes Canadian citizens on here as well too. So it means you too, meaning I don't want to see my university have less funding. I don't think anybody wants to see their schools get less funding. I don't think people want to see that their healthcare is going to be like completely wiped out. And what was the other one on here? Social services. I think people are concerned that this could also relate to stuff like pensions and unemployment insurance as well too. And I'm going to vote no on it because, like I said, I think that's just too much control for the provincial government to have on institutions. But I think this one's just going to be voted no anyways because the moment you put Canadian citizens on there, you're going to have every single old person come on to the vote on this to vote it down because they don't want to lose their pensions and they don't want to lose their unemployment insurance. So
Yeah.
I don't think this is something that should be sought for anything other than, like I said, if you want to limit international students, maybe. But to me, I think this is a ridiculous question to ask personally.
Yeah, I think this is pretty clear cut for both of us, Michael. I'm voting no on it for exactly that same reason. Fine print. If you said Canadians, you lost me. I don't think that we need to limit any sort of social services for actual Canadians in this province. I understand that it might be a limitate. A lot of these questions seem to be in the context of if Alberta were to separate.
Yeah.
It seems like they're very much setting up for if that were to happen,
And,
to that
I find it weird that
context.
they're even asking this question anyways, because, the provincial government has control over education and healthcare anyways. So if you were, say, like I said, a majority of the people that are going to vote yes on this question is because they want to limit international students and permanent residents from having our social services. If that was the goal of the provincial government anyways, they could just do that now. You don't need to have a referendum on adding Canadian citizens on that list. You could just do it, but they're not, obviously. So I just say it's too risky to vote yes on it. It's too like we were saying about the first one, it's too vague in the wording of it. And because it includes Canadian citizens, I think a lot of people are afraid that that's just meaning that our social services institutions are being completely cut. Maybe some libertarians would think that's based, but I think it's just too vague. If you're going to say it's going to be, no more institutions for Canadian citizens, I'd like a second part at the bottom say, but you no longer have to pay provincial income tax or something. I think you get more people wanting to vote yes if you include that. But
Yeah.
do you have any last minute thoughts on that or
Nothing. Nothing.
no?
That's, I think, the worst question on there. Well, second worst.
Okay. 20 or question number 3, 12-month residency requirement. Do you support requiring people with a non-permanent legal immigration status to live in Alberta for at least 12 months before qualifying for provincial funded social support programs? Now, I was under the assumption that they're not supposed to be getting this at all, as far as I'm aware. They're not supposed to be getting any Alberta programs if they are a non-permanent legal immigrant. Because like I say, they're just saying like they're on a work visa. I'm pretty sure people on a work visa are, unless they're part of a union, they're not supposed to be getting pensions and they're not supposed to be getting access to uh, paid for healthcare anyways. But I like I said, I don't know. Is this a question that's giving legitimacy towards non-permanent resident? Like, 'cause it says non-permanent, so we're talking people who just are international students and people on work visas. Well, what's your thoughts on it? I think I'm going to have to hear your thoughts with this one first, because I think my opinion is just kind of garbled at the moment with this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of a bit of a silly question, right? Like, I personally don't believe that, non-permanent residents should get a lot of our social services, as is, of course. But especially with this question, right? Like, I believe that when it comes to programs and whatnot, I believe that the biggest sort of, I hate to call it, say, leeches, but I think it is leeches, is, immigrants, who sort of falsify what they need to get by in life, and they actually take away from the actual Albertans who are here and Canadians who are here that do actually need these programs and do actually need that funding for whatever. Uh, and they take away from it, and they inflate this price. So I mean, I was under the same assumption. I thought you don't get any of that if at
Yeah.
all. If you're a non-permanent resident, you don't get any of this. What do you mean?
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's, I'm to say, like, I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if this is just propaganda that they're wanting to put out to just say like this is what we're wanting to pursue. But like I said, I'm under the assumption right now they're actually supposed to not be getting that unless they're permanent residents. Because I know
Yeah,
permanent residents they pay taxes. They are able to get our services. But as far
I
as
know
I'm
there's
aware, like I said,
loopholes.
unless there's a union involved, I don't know any non-permanent resident that's supposed to have access to government pensions or government health care or government education without paying a fee, which funny enough is not question number 4, which is, do you believe that if you are a temporary resident that you have to pay a fee for any social services that you get? Like, as an example, do you charge reasonable fees or premiums to people of non-permanent immigration status for their families for use of public health care and education systems? Once again, I was under the assumption they were already doing this. Now, if you're just saying for both number 3 and number 4, you're just wanting to make the system stronger, then I guess whatever, if that's what you're wanting to do, then sure. But I think personally, if you are a non-resident and to get access to social services, you should be here in Alberta for a lot more than 12 months. So it should in my opinion, I think it's too little of a number, actually. I think 5 years is honestly a good amount because you've established yourself. You've lived a good portion of your life, 5% of your life you've lived in the province. You've built a reputation. You've built a life for yourself. You're probably on the path to, becoming a citizen. It only makes sense that you get access to those services. But if you're here for 12 months, you very well still are going to probably leave. Like if you're a non-resident, I would say if you're an international student, you're going to be here for 4 years anyways. You're going to be here for that time anyways. But the 50 years usually when people, like I said, they have to decide whether they're going to leave or stay. So if they stay for another year, it only makes sense that they continue on living here. That's what I would assume. But up until that point, I think for 3 and 4 would be yes, you'd have to pay a fee. You'd have to, you'd have to live here for that time.
I concur.
Yeah.
Fully.
Sorry if I've been talking a whole lot. I just was
No,
like, I'm trying to get my thoughts on the table here with these questions because they're just, yeah. You have any more thoughts on 3 and 4?
No, I mean it's always just a matter of immigration and making it so that if you do come here and you're staying here temporarily, right? Even if you're a student, I don't think you need all these programs, right? Because I mean, a lot of students leave, go back to a certain country.
No. Actually, we got a comment from Facebook from Rob. I do agree with you. I do agree. We shouldn't get it behind backing corporations in this way. Corporations should be like in a free market. It should be a free market. Corporations are on their own to be able to run their businesses and to make sure that they can actually stay afloat. They shouldn't be backed with like monopolistic bills to protect them or give them special rights over what they are doing. If they can't survive on their own, then that makes sense that they would be shut down, or if they lose because they can't afford their business anymore. But having a government protect them, give like a shield around them or subsidies to these corporations, Libertarians and our party do oppose that because we believe the economy should be free, and free means free. That's for everybody. Small business owners, big business owners, individuals, entrepreneurs. We shouldn't give any unheeded advantages to these groups. I just personally, like I said, I'm a localist. So I like giving the first choice to the community at large, whether or not they want something like this, rather than letting it be the general like nation, I guess you could say, like the whole country decides, I'm going to decide, and I live here in Quebec, what Alberta does with their own oil when the people in Alberta want oil, stuff like that. That's where my opinion usually lines up with the free market. But we'll move on to question 5. Proof of citizenship to vote. Do you support requiring proof of citizenship, such as a passport, birth certificate, or citizenship card to vote in Alberta provincial elections? Right now, you only need a piece of ID to be able to vote. Now, I like that they word this better than like how Donald Trump is wording this in the States, because in the States they're saying that you need ID. You do need ID to vote. You can't vote unless you have ID. But I think the controversial thing is that you could just go in with your driver's license. I've gone to vote for the municipal election here in Calgary, and I voted for the federal election using my driver's license, which any person can get a driver's license. And recently, I think you should know this as someone who works in municipal politics, there was a fraud ring that was just exposed recently by CSIS, where foreign nationals were forging driver's licenses. So that is concerned. If it's something that's not produced by the government as like an official document, can it be trusted towards people with voting? I would say this is probably an issue with the institution at large. That Elections Canada should be really looking to see who is voting in their elections, who's being a part of their elections. But I think it makes sense if you have your citizenship card or your passport. That makes a hell of a lot more sense for you to bring that in to vote, to prove that you are a citizen of more than your driver's license. So I would probably vote yes on it, under the assumption that it's exactly what it's saying in the text. I don't want them to increase it to say, well, we're gonna change it to be like, I don't know, like it has to be specific people on specific times that have a Canadian passport or something. Like, have a better document. The reason why we have passports is because they're the premium visa of Canada. So if that's what they're asking for, I would vote yes, just on that alone.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. My thing is, I don't like. I'd vote no on this because I just don't see it as that big of an issue. In all
Yeah,
fairness, right? Like, I mean, I think it's more of a federal issue to deal with who's voting. I believe we have a registry already for registered voters.
yeah,
At least that was my how I was with, right. You go in, they check your name off a registered box, or in the case of me, right, my name wasn't on it yet, so I had to get it filed. So now next election, it should be easier for me to vote instead of going through the whole thing, but we'll see. Um, but also with the new IDs here in Alberta, right? Where you're going to put our citizenship on our new driver's license, anyways. I think
true.
that's an easier fix to it. I don't see why we need to make the voting process longer, right? I think that if you just require a passport, you're going to get a whole bunch of people who just struggle to go in and deal with it. A lot of older people are just gonna take forever to get their passport out of their old
Oh
safe
yeah.
that I guess they keep it in, and I just think it'll take up time. It might add bureaucratic nonsense to the whole thing, and I don't see it as an issue that needs to be on a referendum.
Now my question is, since this is a binding referendum, and the question is, do you support having proof of citizenship to vote? Does that mean if we vote no on this question, I don't have to show my ID anymore to vote if I voted no? Because that the wording of that would say that theoretically, if I voted no on it and that the no wins, does that mean I don't have to show my ID anymore? Is it when we have pure anarchy at the polling booths? I'm being
If that's
sarcastic,
how it
but
works,
I'm just saying, like, what are you voting no on exactly to say that we should have no IDs? Like,
if that's how it works, I'm gonna sue the province. I think that's if they change it to be like that out of like spite that we didn't vote yes on it or something, I'm gonna be upset. I'm gonna
all right, I'm changing my vote, guys. We're voting no because I love anarchy. I don't want to have to give the government my ID anymore. We're voting no on this. Yeah.
but
I think what we've noticed with a lot of these questions, we're definitely going to have to wait to see how they're going to be implemented, because it's way too vague. And we're just going to have it's up to the air whether the government is going to implement it exactly as is. If they change things, I would say, yeah, like I said, if you're changing the driver's licenses anyways to have a citizen number or card on your ID, what's the point of this question? You're already doing it anyways to ensure reform to our ID system. It's a waste of time. But I'd still vote yes anyways, because I think it should be passports anyways. So
yeah.
number 6, provincial appointments of judges. Do you support Alberta working with other provinces to amend the Canadian Constitution so provincial governments, rather than the federal government, appoint judges to the provincial King's Bench and appeal courts? Well, my thing is that, are you trying to dismantle the federal government? Because I might vote yes on this just because I think that's just kind of what it's asking here. Because we have different levels of government. We have federal benches and we have provincial benches. The provincial government is already in control of their own provincial benches. So this question is basically asking, do you support the abolition or the complete destruction of the federal judicial system and replace it with I guess it's a more Confederate style, system, because, like I said, it's only the provinces that are bringing in the judges now, not the actual state itself. I think I just vote yes on this. I think they're not going to do it. They'll never accomplish it because of Quebec. Quebec will never vote yes on this.
Yeah.
But hell, if they can get rid of federal judges and replace them with provincial judges, that would be huge, in my opinion.
Yeah,
They're not going to do it, but
no, they're
if they
not.
could.
Yeah, I think it's like the Senate question. Would it be nice? Will it ever happen? No, but might as well
Yeah.
vote yes and see if we can make it happen. Like if there's some sort of pressure. I think that's the big thing with a lot of these referendum questions is that it causes Mark Carney to go fight a legal battle that he will waste his time on, and hopefully he can't screw over the country too much while he's fighting the legal battle.
Yeah. It's never gonna
Um,
happen though, but
yeah,
yeah. Same with
yeah. There's no.
7. I don't know much more to say on 7. I'm gonna vote no on this one actually because I actually don't want to abolish the Senate. So very surprisingly, and I also just think it's a waste of time to pursue this anyways because
Yeah,
Quebec and PEI and the Maritimes are never gonna vote, are never gonna support this. So
yeah. I
yeah,
I would vote yes if it was Senate reform. I don't believe in abolishing the Senate, so I'm going to vote no on it.
I do think there needs to be Senate reform. It needs to be
Yes.
either an elected position or it needs to be like a voluntary position. Because I've
Yeah.
always said like we need like a president or like the Senate should be a group of people that ensure the culture and the nation at large is supported, is like supporting the actual nation, like people that like senators are people who've worked in sports, people who've worked in culture, people who've worked in engineering, people who've worked in the sciences, because they actually have technical skills towards the field rather than politicians. And maybe something that's like a voluntary position, someone that you come in, you vote, but you don't have like the larger job at large of governing the nation. Just someone that is keeping the politicians in check. That's what I would like to see out of a Senate, really. But abolishing the Senate, really, I don't want to give more power to the House of Commons as it is, anyways.
Yeah.
So, waste of time, not going to be implemented, anyways. I'm voting no on it. I don't want the Senate to be abolished, anyways. So, I'll be voting no.
Yeah. Same with me. I'm going to vote no on it.
Yeah. Opting out of federal programs. You support allowing provinces to opt out of federal programs, such as areas of healthcare, education, social services, while keeping associated federal funding. Well, once again, what do you mean by this? Because the province is already in control of healthcare and education. I assume that this is just simply a question to start moving towards the provincial pension program. That's all that this is. They want the government to be in control, the provincial government to be in control of pensions. So I I'm a little all over the place with this one because I'd probably vote no on it because like opting out. It doesn't say like changing controls, is opting out. Does that mean we're not part of the Health Act anymore? Does that mean that we're not supporting education anymore, public education? Like it needs to be worded what exactly it's saying, because I think if we take complete control over all social services and institutions, which I think that's what it's asking here in Alberta, I think the federal government just might cut funding anyways. So you say they keep the associated funding.
Yeah.
Well, that's between you and Mark Carney, Smith.
Yeah.
So I
I
I I don't know. I don't have an opinion on this one yet, honestly.
I actually love this question. This is the question that was my favorite to vote yes for, because you do say healthcare is obviously provincial, but we have this huge issue from the federal government and lobbyist groups that keep us in a doctor shortage, right? Uh, Governments at the federal government as is will cut funding for any school that graduates too many doctors, and I'm not a fan of that. Right, that's why we're in a doctor shortage, and obviously doctors, not all doctors, but a large portion of doctors want to keep us in that shortage to keep their pay high. And that's why I like this question, bringing in the education and keeping the funding, because that's why we don't just graduate more doctors as is because we want these universities to keep their funding, and they obviously want to keep their money. So why would they, graduate too many doctors if or go above their quotas, their diversity quotas, or below their diversity quotas, if they're going to lose funding, right? So I actually do like this question a lot for that reason, because I think we would get out of a doctor shortage if we can finally take control and say, no, these federal lobbyist groups are not going to dictate this country and our healthcare system, and we can graduate more doctors, we can hire more doctors and get out of a doctor shortage, which will hopefully make it so that the hospital downtown is in a 9-hour wait time every single morning, or
Oh,
not even morning,
hopefully.
every single hour of the day.
Hopefully. We're gonna try to go a little speed round with the last two questions, even though they're the most
Yeah.
serious ones, unfortunately. Just because we probably should end this off by 2:10. Let's go into number 9. Simple question: should provincial laws take priority? I already support this anyways. I want the provincial government to absolutely destroy the federal government when it comes to laws right now, with Bill C9, Bill C22, Bill C34, them the gun grabbing laws, the bans on self-defense and freedom of speech laws, it's paramount that even if we don't secede as a province, we are able to live peacefully in our own province without the federal government coming in and suppressing us, in my opinion. So I'll be voting yes on this anyways, because if we want to actually be in a free country, we need to ensure that those bills that just passed the House of Commons are not affecting us here in Alberta. So, what's your thoughts, man?
I'm gonna vote no. I believe in a strong federal government. I believe that their laws do need to have back into it, and if you just kind of undermine it with the provincial government, I believe that you'll have fights and you'll never get anything done. Even if you have a conservative government one day, I think you're undermining them, and you're undermining the opposition and the rest of Canada with it. And I want to keep Canada to get together.
Yeah.
But I think it undermines our togetherness as a nation. And I think it opens the door to other provinces doing the same thing and then screwing us over subsequently.
That's a good thing, yes. But how might I say then, Jonah? Because I don't know if you're concerned about the bills and what the federal government is doing right now, but how would you say that we should go about ensuring that we still have the freedom and liberty that we want here in this province? Because like I said, there's a lot of gun owners that are here in Alberta that want to keep their guns. They don't want to give their government to they're going to want to give their guns to the government. It's actually so much so that there's actually 2 million gun owners here in Alberta that have not reported to the government that that they have firearms or have not given their firearms to the government. They actually extended the program because of this. People are concerned about Bill C9 and the religious freedoms being stripped from the Canadian Constitution. Bill C9 also talking about freedom of speech and stuff like that. So questions like that. How would you go about reforming to ensure that Albertans are being heard seriously and that we're not going to be ignored and that our rights are going to be, upheld here in our province, or maybe even people outside of Alberta, to ensure that those freedoms are also outside of Alberta too?
Well, Michael, I mean, I'm a classical liberal, right? So I do believe in slow progressive change. So there's obviously three ways you can go about that. One is what they're already doing. Just don't give the government your guns. That's with that, just don't listen to them in that sense, and they'll have to respond back, and hopefully a calm meaner of, okay, well, we can reduce this law, we can bring it back. Let's bring it back to the House of Commons. Let's amend it because clearly these people are upset. That's theoretically how it should work. But the next is obviously vote a conservative government, which I understand that's beating a dead horse, and we've heard it many, many times before. And obviously Toronto won't do it, but we're seeing a changing demographic, obviously in Toronto too, with young people understanding liberties and wanting to keep their liberties. So that gives me hope, at least, that we can still trust the democratic process here. And I mean, that's my thing, is just trust the democratic process, and we'll fix these things along the way. And obviously, if there's, what me and you are here doing, like, we're advocating for it, we're going to go up and fight against the federal government, right? We're going to never back down on it, and just keep putting pressure on them to say, hey, you're taking away our rights, and if you don't stop this, like, we should go implode the Liberal Party, quite frankly, not in like a physical way. I mean, like, let's go join them and break them up, kind of deal, right? Make the Liberal Party liberal again.
Yeah. And obviously, because we're going to end off here in the next 10 minutes here, question number 10, the big kahuna itself: should we remain part of Canada, or should the Alberta government start the process towards a binding referendum? Now, as someone who does lean more towards the separatist camp, I will say this question does not satisfy anybody. If you are someone who obviously wants to stay in Canada, I know there's a lot of people here in Alberta that do want to stay in Canada. This question you shouldn't have been even asked, obviously, in the first place, if you are one of those people. But if you are a separatist or someone who leans more towards autonomy in this province, I think a lot of people are disappointed that it's a question to ask a question, meaning that even if option 2 does get approved, that we'll just be right back to this here in April or the spring of next year for another referendum. And because of that, there's a lot of people asking whether or not a referendum is even going to happen if it does get voted option 2. or it just might be defeated straight off in the first round in option one, and we just stay in Canada forever. So obviously, I think even if you don't want independence, we should vote option two, just because we should be trying to send a message to the federal government to say, hey, we are angry. We are mad at how you are treating Albertans, how you're treating Western Canada. And this is the consequence of what is going to happen next spring if you don't take our plights seriously and actually focus on our province and maybe push back on how much you're willing to implement your ideology as affecting everybody, whether that mean, like I said, Bill C9 or the gun grab or anything along those lines. You don't have to vote separation in the second referendum that's going to happen, but I think there's going to be a lot of conservatives and a lot of people that are dissatisfied with the federal government that vote option two just because they want to send a message. And I think that's what we should do. That's what I'm going to do. I'm very confident that I'm going to vote option two for that reason. I'm still debating whether or not I will actually vote yes or no when the actual referendum comes, the binding one that says yes or no. But for this one, at least, I think option two is the one that should be asked, because a message should be sent and changes need to be done in this province. And we need to threaten. I'm sorry, we need to threaten the federal government. Quebec did it, and they got their demands met. They got what they wanted for their autonomy because they threatened the government. They pushed back, and now they have autonomy. They have economic freedom. They have their freedom of their culture in their province. And I think a lot of people in Alberta want the same thing. And if we can do that, the bare minimum to get a better deal, then this is how we do it. But if by voting option one, which I think most people are confident we're going to stay in Canada anyways, then it's just kind of like we're not really getting anything out of it. I don't know. Some people say it's a risk. Some people to say that it's an American campaign. We're being led by the CIA or something. I wish I got my CIA check. They've been bouncing my checks recently. So I don't know. What's your thoughts, Jonah? Is this a big American plot, or should we not risk it and just stay and support Canada regardless?
Well, I mean, clearly it's not American plot because I'm not getting my one-to-one exchange of CAD to USD. It hasn't been sent to me yet, so I'm kind of upset about that. So I'll pick option one because they haven't given me my money yet.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, like when it comes to the referendum, this I believe was the bare minimum Daniel Smith had to do for just appeasing, I guess, the separatist movement. But obviously, I believe the actual referendum is still in a court appeal process, or am I wrong about that? I thought it was still going through an appeal process with the federal, or not the federal, provincial government, because that one judge said it violated treaty rights, which treaty rights apparently only matter when it benefits when it benefits
the judge said that the petition violates treaty rights, so they stopped the petition from going through to be able to be counted. Then the lieutenant governor, Daniel Smith, used her executive powers because they basically run this province with their own executive power to say, well, we're going to invalidate that, and they counted it anyways. Whether or not this will even go through as a judge approving it again when it comes to the federal court is another question entirely. But provincially, at least, it seems like Daniel Smith is in the cause of using her executive powers to push it through.
Well,
at this
to
moment.
Me, how I got it was that courts take a long time, and it could take longer to just even get the actual, even if we vote option two on this, it sounds like it'll take a while to get to that actual final verdict of do we separate or not. Yeah. But even for this, I do believe in voting option one. I don't believe you should vote option two, even if you are a progressive conservative or just a moderate liberal or something, because the whole idea of, but we should have that choice. We should have that choice to go do this. I think it undermines a lot of what we fought for with Canada.
Absolutely.
Now. I don't want to take the moral high ground or anything. Like I'm not so morally better than anyone, but but
we want change. Like I said, I'm not an Alberta nationalist in the sense that I'm here for the Alberta Republic, guys. Let's wave the blue flag. I want a better deal for everybody. I want a better deal for individuals. And I'm worried that if we do nothing, we won't get anything out of it. A question that was asked in the chat is why a deputy leader would support this referendum in the first place. Well, I support the referendum because I support autonomy over individuals. I believe that if the any community, any group wants to go through the process of becoming independent or becoming you know, self-dependent, basically, like Catalonia, Scotland, Palestine, Alberta, I don't know, New England or Texas or something like that. If they wanted to vote on it, let them vote. If you think that a majority of Canadians and a majority of Albertans are going to vote no on this, it shouldn't matter anyways, because it'll just get voted down. And probably a vote will never, ever happen again. I do believe that we need to have the democratic process of letting people choose. Now, while I would be in favor of separation, or at least favor of, getting to that point, it's because I don't really like the federal government anyways. I love Canada as a nation, but I don't like the federal government. I want to shrink the government as much as possible, as much as possible. I know there's many people in my party, the Libertarian Party of Canada, that are ANCAPs or just straight up anarchists that don't want the government to exist at all. And if we can get rid of a level of government, say the federal government, then you're already achieving half the goal right then and there. Now, like I said, whether that will be a good thing or not is why we're here to discuss it. And we're going to have many more live streams as we come leading up to October to discuss option 10 specifically in more detail, how it's going to affect the Indigenous people here in Canada, how it's going to affect students, how it's going to affect people living in the cities, and the economic output of it, the economic consequences, maybe some benefits, all of that. We're going to have a live stream. Jonah, if you're willing to come back on again, we'll get some people that are more in favor and more against option 10. Yeah. We can have an entire live stream dedicated to question 10.
I'd love to be on for a debate with it, because I do want to debate the actual separatists, obviously, because I believe that they more align with option 2 than you do. I mean, like with option 2, I don't think you. Like option 2 doesn't represent you, sadly, which is my issue with it. If option 2 represented what Michael Harris here wants, with just wanting a better deal for Alberta, and obviously just
option
kind of sticking it to the feds,
is the bare minimum, as far as I'm aware. Like you were saying, it is the bare minimum of satisfying separatists. It is not a good question to ask at all, but I think it's good though. I think it is. To me, I was really angry when it first came out, but I'm satisfied. I think that if everybody that wants to stay in Canada votes option 1 and they say, that's it, we're staying in Canada, I'm satisfied. I'm happy. That's good enough for me, as long as we had the question. But like I said, to me, at this moment, that's where I'm aiming, is probably option 2, to give the option another framing of the question. Actually have a serious look about Alberta's place in Confederation, That's just my thoughts on the matter, and I think I'll end it off in that. So,
well, it's funny. It's funny you should say that, Michael. Of if we just vote option 1, it'll never be brought up again, because there's a certain AGM coming up. Yeah. I hear, and if the separatists don't win here, I hear they're gonna be coming for Danielle Smith's head.
That is a question for another live stream. The UCP AGM, if they vote option 1 unanimously, there's going to, excuse my language, but there's going to be a bit of a shit show at the UCP AGM if option 1 is very heavily voted. I think Danielle Smith's career is probably also going to be over at that point as well too. We'll go into more detail on that in the next live stream. How about next Sunday? Are you free next Sunday, same time?
Michael, I'm in Hawaii next Sunday, but I can make room in my busy. It's just a matter of, will you accommodate my time difference?
Well, we can discuss that as the week's going on, but thank you everybody who is joining us for this live stream, or who is watching it after the fact. I think we got a lot of the details of a lot of the individual questions discussed. We're not done with the referendum at all. We have like 85 days till the referendum actually comes and the vote is actually here. So we'll have plenty of time to discuss more in detail. I'd like to have more opposition people come on the stream here to discuss the independence. I'd like to have some more pro-separatist people to come on and discuss their case on here. And obviously we're going to have Jonah in the mix of it as well too. We're going to have some good debates on here. And I hope you guys stay tuned for that, because we're not even close to done on this questions. So thank you guys for joining us today, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. Do you have anything else to say, Jonah?
Thank you for having me on, Michael. It's always a pleasure.
No, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you for joining us.